About Jessica Chastain. So she was at the Cannes Film Festival recently, and she came out at the end of it. So she watched 20 movies in 10 days, and after it, she was really appalled by the depiction of women in film. So do you guys want to read what she had to say?
Yeah, so she says, she basically called the disturbing representation of women. She said, I do believe that if you have female storytelling, you also have more authentic female characters. She said, the one thing I really took away from this experience is how the world views women from the female characters that were represented. It was quite disturbing to me, to be honest, with some exceptions.
Interesting. Well, Jessica Chastain is she's always one for the cause.
Yeah.
She spoke out recently about equal pay in Hollywood for women. So I'm not surprised that she said it. It had to be said, and it's unfortunate that we're still talking about it in 2017. People still don't understand what the point is of having diversity behind the camera and in front of the camera. So the fact that she is using her platform for something that's going to help everybody, because it's just not about Jessica. It's about other actors and actresses, directors, female producers, cinematographers, everybody on set. Like I said, behind the scenes and that you see in front of the camera. So I'm glad she said it, and I'm not surprised. I hope she keeps talking about it because it needs to be said.
Yeah, and she's had some roles where she, you know, plays that strong woman, and that's what I've always loved about Jessica Chastain, is that she's really particular, at least in interviews that I've heard, you know, where she's speaking about this. She's very particular when she takes on roles, that they are representative of not just her, but of the other women who are strong-minded women in life. And so she hopes that, like Cornelia was saying, that yes, hello, we're only going to see more women depicted in the movies if we have people who are casting them. So when everyone wants to come down on Hollywood, you know, you go to the SAG Awards, you go to the Oscars, and everyone still talks about that. It's like, yes, but what's the root of the problem? Where's the root of the issue here? It's the people behind the scenes, the casting directors who are sitting there going, okay, I can identify with this person or not. Or what she was appalled at is by, in these films, how these women were always just responding to men instead of having those lead roles. And we may think we're making huge gains, you know, in the way women are represented, but not exactly, especially when she's sitting there at the Cannes Film Festival watching 20 movies, and and she has this sort of reaction.
Yeah, she said that she hopes to include more female storytellers in the mix, and then she says, then we will have more of the women that I recognize in my day-to-day life, ones that are proactive, have their own agencies, don't just react to the men around them, and have their own points of view. So her theory is, if you have a female storyteller, they will likely be casting women in roles that are more strongly representative of what we are on the day-to-day basis. But do you agree? When you go to see a movie, obviously you're not judging 20 movies in a short amount of time so quickly back to back, but is that something you think about when you're watching a film? Or do you get so caught up in the moment that you don't really think about it until the conversation comes up after? It's a question that continues to be brought up. Women in Hollywood have always been fighting this battle of wanting to have that equality. And I still think we're a far ways from it.
Yeah, no, but even on the business side, if just the money standpoint, women support. We come out, we pay money. If there's something we like, we're gonna buy that ticket. So there's no downside to having more representation from women on camera and behind the camera. There's no downside to it at all. Because again, financially, you're gonna make money. It's going to push the conversation in favor of whichever studio backs the initiative to say, you know what, we're pushing this. We want more women storytellers to be on board. So there's no, as a studio, I still don't understand what the downside of doing that would be. Like I don't get it still.
You know, this weekend I climbed Shasta. There were a lot more men than women going up the mountain, but every time I saw another girl, we were like, yeah, because it's that, you know, you want to have that moment where you recognize there's another woman who's doing something just as powerful as you are, and you want to be represented, and that goes in all things in life. But I think what Jessica is doing is certainly hitting the mark with a lot of other actors and actresses. We're seeing people tweet about it. Several people have come out to say, hey, yeah, keep the conversation going.
Yeah, and in movies, if you're not familiar with Jessica Chastain, I mean, you're looking at her on your screen now, but she starred in films like Martian, Zero Dark 30, The Help, all of those, which she carried those lead roles. Zero Dark 30 specifically, because you're talking about a war movie. And you're talking about a woman who was put in a position where, you know, she had to make huge decisions, and usually you don't see that. I remember taking a course at USC when I was in college, and it was all about the identification of males and females in film, and even talking about race and gender. So race even more specifically, when you see a Latina in a film, how is she depicted? You know, usually she's a maid, or she's cleaning a toilet, or she's doing this or doing that. And it made me as a Latina realize, oh, I didn't even know subconsciously as a viewer my whole life, that is how I have seen my culture as females being depicted. So it's something now that I look at more specifically, but what am I doing to help that cause, right? I'm still going and watching these films, but it's those people behind the scenes, not just casting, but also to get into the craft. So what are we doing to encourage our young girls to get involved and want to make a difference in film and then become producers? Because it starts there too.
Representation matters.
Well
said, Megan. Yeah. Representation matters. Everybody wants to see themselves depicted. Everybody wants to see their stories told. Like example, there's a show on HBO, Insecure. Issa Rae started off on YouTube. She's a young writer, producer, director. Started off a YouTube series, The Awkward Black Girl. It blew up, and now she has a show on HBO. When I tell you, it's one of my favorite shows ever because it represents me. Like when I watch the show, my girlfriends, my guy friends, everybody, the relationships, I enjoy watching it, and I enjoy the experience that I get I can connect to it to where it starts a conversation. We can talk about that show in my opinion with anybody, but it matters to me. So I'm going to support. I'm going to support. And again, on the studio side, there's no downfall to that. I'm going to spend money to support the show.
You're going to spend money on that. And speaking of